Alright, welcome to another episode of Big Bun Game Club. We were so close of not having an episode with technical difficulties, and yet here we are. So, we've been playing Killer 7. Uh, you were talking about before the video cut off. We were talking about you're in Almeida City and how the gameplay is very simple, but there's some nuances or subtleties to it.
Yeah. So I was saying how much I love the game, and I played it before, but this is a replay. I played it back when it first came out and like beat it a couple times. Um, and I just absolutely love it. And it's like I like that it's deceptively simple, right? It's like you can move forward, you can turn around, and you can aim your gun and shoot. But like the way the game plays sets up interesting gameplay situations because it's like you might have like a heaven smile is stalking you, like one of those ones that go, "Ah, ah, ah,
Oh
ah,
yeah.
ah," and they like run over. And then you might have one coming up behind you, and you have only a set place where you can move. So you might want to run away and like get some distance before you start fighting. But you have to be strategic and know like where the junctions are, where you can move to, and where you can try to run to try to get a safe distance so you can actually fight in the combat. So it's almost like a weird like Pac-Man ghost thing a little bit. You know, it's like you have to navigate a maze to avoid the enemies and like I don't know, it's just a it's like super simple but like there's a lot of strategy to it. Like I'm sure you've figured out like weak points and stuff. Like cuz I wasn't going to tell say when you were playing I was watching you play last week, I so badly wanted to say like you can just shoot their weak point. But I wanted you to figure it out yourself cuz
Oh,
I don't know.
so it was
Go
a mix for me because I I did notice that glowy spot on their arms or whatever, and I knew it was kind of like their weak point, but I it didn't feel consistent because there were times where it was like right at like there was one at their head and I was shooting at it and it didn't count because it was either like a pixel down or this whatever, but it just didn't count. So I was like, okay, well, I know just shooting at them will just knock them down anyway, so I'll just go with that for most of the time. But I knew that for sure because I rewatched that review of the Steam version of Killer 7 to see the difference, to see what the problems were. The thing that I when I was rewatching it, I must have not heard the whole thing, but the only issues with the Steam version is just some of the textures did not carry over, and the cutscenes were cut off a little bit by the on the edge, just by the ratio that they did the game.
like the
So
anime ones.
yeah, so it's just the issues with it
Oh,
do
whatever.
seem more like very like nitpicky and just kind of like it doesn't hamper the experience of the game. So I was like, okay, that's fine. But I am fucking jealous. The Steam version has hotkeys for the characters. Like if you have the if you're playing keyboard and
Oh,
mouse, like the number keys are each character you can switch between. So like that's way more like convenient, uh but yeah, I after that watching that he mentioned the weak points in that video. I was like, okay, so those are the weak points. And then ever since that, also started to I started to go through all the characters because I was sticking with Kaede for the longest time in my playthrough, but she was great for like long distance enemies. Like if there's one that was far away,
mhm.
I would always go to her. But if they were getting close, I would kind of use is it Kevin or I think it's Kevin, the one with the sunglasses and the throwing
He has the
knives.
knife. Yeah, Kevin.
I'm slowly defaulting to him now because he has infinite ammo and he doesn't reload. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. I don't have to. I'll worry about my bullets because that's the one thing I. It's so easy for me to lose count of how many bullets I'm firing, and it's like, okay, I'll just have to just mash A to reload, so that way I can start another cycle with a full clip.
All right. I know I wasn't remembering it wrong. You can reload manually. I
Oh,
think it's the C stick because on the Steam version it's the right analog stick. So I think it's the
ah,
C stick on GameCube
okay.
because like when I was like since I played the game before, I'm like starting to remember things, and I just like as I like was held in the control, I was like, oh yeah, this is how I do this because like reloading is a huge part of like it's important in so many battles. Like for instance, because like all right, I remember we were talking about this before, and I'm leaning towards this game makes no sense. Like if it does make sense, the game doesn't explain it, and the only person that knows is Suda, and only if he fucking wrote a notebook. Because if he didn't write it down, he doesn't even fucking know anymore. Because there's like all kinds of weird symbolism mashed together, and none of it makes sense. But what was my point there? Oh, because like even all of the boss battles are just like ridiculous puzzles that make no sense.
And
Like
they're all different. They're all inconsistent. Like there's like the first boss is literally just a girl standing still and you're just shooting her wings and that's the fight. Like there's no like oh shit, she's doing crazy attacks and I have to move around. Then the second boss fight, I think it's the two head people that shoot their brains out. Uh
that's third. The second one is when
oh.
it's that little
Oh,
girl and she has the things on her back. Like she has four heads on her back. So you have to like dodge her. She shoots flames at you.
yeah,
Run you have to
I thought that was the first boss fight.
is it?
Because I think it is because
Oh yeah, you're right.
yeah.
That's it's right after. So this okay, sorry. The second boss fight is the kid that's underneath the rafter. So he's like, because he was like the chef, and
Uh,
then he was like, "I'm actually the
yeah.
assassin." And then you have to blow, like you
Yeah.
can't
Oh,
hurt him any
yeah.
other
You're
way.
right. Yeah. Now. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I was mixing him up with the lady that you have to have a firing competition with. You have to keep firing at her.
No, that
But
is actually that's the second boss. So I
oh,
guess the kid's the
okay.
third boss.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think you see the chef earlier before the woman, and then you see the
Yeah,
woman, then you
yeah.
see the guy, then you go to Almeida. But the boss fights are all inconsistent. They all are different, and they all have different rules. Like the one is like a shooting competition, and then you do the kid with the chef. Then you do the two people in the business suits that shoot their brains out. Like you have to like this one I had to look up because I didn't understand it. Because I was like, okay, what are they doing? Am I shooting their brain? It's like, no, the brain is just an item that they're gonna throw at you. Okay, what do I do? And it took me a while. And I was like, okay, I looked it up, and it's like, oh, one of them had like you shoot the tie off, and then the guy like fixes the tie, and as he's fixing it, you have a clear shot at his like inside his head. You shoot him, and then the other one's a pain in the ass to get because he has to like flinch, and you have to aim right. Like
Wait. Is this Almeida?
no, it's right before Almeida.
Okay, don't tell me what happens. What the puzzle is in Almeida. I want to figure them out by
Oh,
myself. So
well,
don't tell me.
this is the Almeida, but it's the boss like right before you even go to that area. Because Almeida's the cult guy, right?
Yeah, I just started the level. I didn't really get far.
Oh, because this was like, did you go to this area that has like a carpet over the door or whatever, and you have to like lift up the carpet to
You're
get
talking
in?
about the two brain guy, right?
Yeah, because that
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
right
I fought that.
before. Yeah, so those are the boss fights I'm talking about. Uh, and then the Almeida boss
Okay.
is the Almeida boss. I'll talk about that next week. In case because even though well, I'll let you experience it. I don't want to like kind of tip the hat on that one, but that
Yeah, like.
that
Oh, go
area
ahead.
though, not the boss fight, but that area was pissing me off because there's one area in it that's infinite enemies, and I was like, I have no time to
Yep.
think, and it's like, and then I kept dying. I was like, I don't know if I'll have time to do anything, but I got over it. I was like, okay, fine, I'll just shoot them and just kind of inch each part, and then just kind of rush to where I need to go. The one thing I do love about this game is the map is amazing. The map helps out so much. Like I go to an area, I'm like I don't know what I'm doing, and I should have done this in the beginning when we were playing together, because the map has the like character portraits for each area. It's like oh. I have to take this character over there. Okay, this and it makes a lot more sense. And it's like, okay, this is like it makes it way more like bearable because like just going in without looking at the map is like I feel like that is a challenge in of itself that I think makes the game it can that can play like another level of like nonsense that's also kind of fun, but the map is helpful. I love that you get to use each character as well. That the map like each time I'm playing it, the more I'm loving it. I love the leveling system in the game. Like that, like you were talking about how like deceiving and simple the combat is, but even the leveling system adds such nuance to it. Like, oh, you have like a ground attack that just happens automatically. Like I thought, okay, is there
Mm,
gonna be like any explanation? Like, no, it just happens naturally. And I like there are things in this game that I feel are way ahead of its time. For like a 2005 game, a lot of the stuff that's in it, I don't think it was in anywhere in like other GameCube or PS2 games. Like that, like the stuff I've seen in this game, I would see like maybe PS3, PS4 era kind of games that would kind of have like these alternating personality, like you're switching between characters and all that kind of stuff. While this, it just seems like it's way more advanced. And also, like, I would always think that if your character dies, any progression you made gets erased as well, but it doesn't, and it's like, wow, this actually like it made a lot of the stress a lot less like annoying. Where it's like, okay, I made it all the way here, did all these like cryptic puzzles, my character just died, but all that progress is still saved, even though I didn't save at all since then or whatever. So I do like that there is this like good live mechanic in it almost. I think you probably get a game over if Garcian dies. I think that'd probably be the game over.
well, that's what I was gonna say, is that it's not really Garcian is your real health bar. Everyone else is used to shield him. So it's like if you need a character and you keep dying with him, you're putting Garcian at risk every time. And is like his weapon isn't that so like in the harder levels, like his weapon isn't that powerful. So you have to be really good at shooting with him because you can't level him up.
Yeah.
So the challenge in the game is don't fuck up and let Garcian die because yeah, then you can't bring anyone back to life.
So I do like that aspect of it because it. I mean, yeah, that is probably the true game over with Garcian, and so the game's probably like at first I thought, oh wow, this is very advanced, and then I realized, oh, this is like not like the true game over or whatever. So it's like, so it does a nice trick with that kind of like presentation with it, which is why I think it's a little bit ahead of its time because I think now there you would see games do something similar to that, but maybe a little more like extravagant or whatever. But I just feel like there's a lot of things in Clear 7 that makes it so modern for how quirky and weird it is, even for the time that that game came out. Because I think like even having
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with. I don't know if I agree with you because I don't think anything built upon this though. Because like this game is just a weird ass thing, right? It's like
yeah,
that whole. I think the gameplay mechanics are born from just this weird fantasy land that Suda came up with. I don't think it's. I don't think he was like, I wanted the game to play like this. He was just like, okay, if there's a guy that pretending to be seven people in his head, how does this work? And then he came up with all the gameplay mechanics. I'm pretty sure because this is just some weird surrealist nightmare. I don't think he
yeah.
was trying to revolutionize gameplay.
Well, I guess it's more of like it's probably by accident that this stuff has kind of happened with within the gameplay, but I think that's true. And but it's a weird dualism I feel with a lot of his games because even with like No More Heroes, as I said before, like that game was intentionally simplistic because it's supposed to capitalize on the A button being the big like satisfying kill button pretty much, and then you just swing to the finishing blow, but that game just kind of makes the combat intentionally tedious because it's supposed to replicate how it is for like a profession. So I do think that to some degree the gameplay does have like some thought put behind it, but I do think that it's the thought put behind it is not necessarily like, oh, how does this work for a game? It's more of like, let's just do something really fucking weird, like have the A button be the move. You move the A button and the direction stick is just directions, but the A is what makes you move and do all this action with it.
But even what you just said makes me think it's like a supports what I'm saying because it's like you said no more heroes. It's like all right, the point of this game is to show how monotonous this guy's life is. Okay, so now we have to make the combat simple.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
you know
yeah,
what I'm
but
saying?
it
Like,
is taking
he
in.
comes up with what he wants to express first. Like, because I think this thing is not as much of a game as it is just a weird art project.
Yeah,
Because it's like he decides what he wants to express, and then he makes gameplay around it. I'm pretty sure that's how this man works.
Yeah, I mean the gameplay is kind of like yeah, exactly, but it's still that is still
It
like
makes no
thought
sense.
of yeah. But it's still thought into the gameplay is just not like traditional how he thought about it because he still had to think about what button does what thing. Like why would it be the A button? Why not the B button? Why like there's a reason for why he made these controls the way that they are. It's just that I think he wanted Killer 7 to be such a surreal experience that you just wanted to stand out just on that alone. And I think it goes into what I said before that since Shinji Mikami was the one that was taking a lot of the responsibility for this game, he was like, "I'll just do whatever I want since he's gonna vouch for this game," and he just wanted to see what he would be able to get away with. And he's like, "Oh, okay, well let's make the move the A button. Fuck it, the gameplay will be this fucking weird, and whatever happens happens."
Here's what my point is. I think Suda would rather cut a element of gameplay to save something from the story than the other way around.
Yeah. So
If there was something that was like this game would be 10 times more fun if you added this, and he's like, no, 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 doesn't make sense with the metaphor. He would cut it out. I guarantee it.
have you looked at the videos I've sent you? You haven't seen all of them, but like,
No, I didn't want to watch. I didn't want to watch anything about it because I want to like. I don't want anyone to poison my thoughts on like what the story means.
okay,
Because,
because
but
like,
like, as far as I'm seeing it right now, it's like it makes literally zero sense.
yeah,
There's like some weird symbolism here and there, but it's like it feels like little vignettes
no,
that don't really. There's not like a real narrative underneath. It's just like a weird commentary about like a war economy.
yeah, like I only ask that because I'm probably gonna watch his that video that he did on this game probably like once I beat it. Because like that's what I do with a lot of the other Suda 51 games. Like I beat the
Right.
game, then I would go back to watch what this person thought of it. Because like it's what like that's what I love about games like this and just shows like this where you can just kind of see what other people like took out from it. Like even with Twin Peaks, like the last season of that show is so bizarre. Like there's one episode that makes no sense. Like it's all in black and white and it is there's no dialogue at all in it at whatsoever. It's just things you're seeing happening, and it's supposed to like talk about the origin of evil, pretty much. It just shows all this stuff that's going on, and you're supposed to take out of it that this is where like starts from or whatever. And it's so weird, but even then, it's like watching other people talk about that last season of Twin Peaks. It's like a little bit more interesting to see like what other people got from it, which they might not even be right in what they pulled from it. It could just be whatever. Like the stuff that's
Exactly.
in Killer 7, there might be a payoff to all these things, and the other stuff might not never get a payoff to it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot more not payoff. If I'm remembering correctly, there's a lot more not payoff than there is payoff. But like from what I remember, it's like I think there's a narrative underneath that's not really important. Like all the stuff with like the negotiations between the UN and stuff. I think that's the actual like plot, and everything else is just some weird surrealist fantasy in this guy Harmon's head,
I
and none of it's really happening.
I
He just like thinks he's like part of it because he used to be an assassin or something, but I think he's just making shit up. That makes no sense.
yeah.
Unless there is because like unless you're seeing some connection, I don't see it.
Well, I think what it kind of is that each story almost each chapter kind of feels like they stand on their own, like they're each episodes of a grander story, like the UN negotiations like that, like kind of felt more in line with like when you're in that like Asian house whatever, like because that whole thing is kept talking about how if you kill this guy, that this Japanese prime minister guy, there's gonna be like the UN's gonna fall apart. Like, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, I know America sent you, but this is what's gonna happen. And it is kind of, and then after that, with the Almeida part, also feels like it's a standalone thing that's talking more about like cults in America, pretty much. And it's like these things kind of
But
stand
it's
on
like,
their own.
what the fuck?
Yeah, like it is weird. I
It's
think
like it makes
the
no sense.
the only thing that's kind of holding them together is that Dracula looking guy that looks like the guy from Darkstalkers.
Yeah, Kunlan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he like like that's the only thread that's kind of
The
tying everything
mystery.
together. But like even as it's kind of like a throwaway character almost. He just kind of seems to show up when he wants.
But that's like the whole is like, okay, did anything make sense in that intro? I think the intro of him is very important because that's kind of what ties the whole thing together, if I remember correctly. Because like he talks about how they play chess every day,
Yeah.
and like that's somehow a big thematic thing in the story. I don't think that's a spoiler because, but
I
it comes
kind of
up a lot
I
later on.
kind of already forgot about that cutscene. like so
It's
like
like that's like one of the most important scenes in the whole game.
yeah, but like there's so much stuff that happens in that game that's so like stuff happens, and it's like I kind of already forgot what happened there. I kind of want to rewatch it just so I can get the context of it because like I read so many of these logs that you get from the pigeons. You get there's all this stuff with the gameplay I have to remember. Like I think what makes me like forget things easily when it comes to like cutscenes like that is it's just there's all these enemies that throw at you, and it's like I have to like kind of like keep
Yeah.
track of this, and then after that it's like I forget what happened before. Like I do remember bits and pieces of it. Like I do remember like they met, and then Harmon just kind of shot the guy out of the fucking building, and he's like, oh, it just begun or whatever the fuck, and then it goes on
No,
from that.
that's not what happened. He
Shit.
shot him and he caught the bullet and he rode the bullet over to the fucking Space Needle. That's what happened.
Okay, that's
It's
what I meant.
fucking makes no sense. This game is fucking bizarre. And I think it's just a bizarre whatever. He just did whatever he wanted.
I think it's so that YouTuber I sent you, like, he did a video on Killer is Dead. This was a game that when they announced it, I kept hearing this is like the spiritual sequel to Killer 7, and they kept throwing that around because it has the same visual style of Killer 7, but it's not the same game at all. But that game's story is
Not even close.
it's awful. Like there's so many lines in that game that are just there just to be like nonsense. That makes no sense. Like the one of the characters says like there's a lot of truth in speculation, but it's like it's such a meaningless statement that is just thrown around and has nothing to say with anything. And then you just it's like
Yeah.
okay, this story is pretty bad. While Killer 7 at least kind of feels like there's something going on, but it's not it might not be anything that's like cohesive. It's just stuff that's there and you can take it or leave it.
Yeah. It's like a grindhouse movie or something. And like, um, I have to say, because you talked about voice acting and like lines, this it somehow weirdly has well written bad dialogue, if that makes any sense, and like really well performed. Like
Yeah. I know
there's
what you
he
mean.
goes, I have to go to Texas now because no one would wear a Texas Bronco shirt if they didn't live in Texas. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but it sounded so smart when he said it. So it's like, I don't know. There's some kind of magic going on there.
Yeah, like I know what you mean because that's what I love about like stuff. There is you know I thank God you said that because this reminded me of the thing I wanted to say that I almost forgot. This game was bothering me the whole time because it was reminding me of a show I watched like a few months ago, and I just remembered it. There's an anime called Serial Experiment Lane. This show, like I've watched this show many times, and every time I've watched it, I still don't know if I get it. But at the same time, there is something very smart about it. This show was in the 90s, but like there's stuff that's so gonzo, but the one thing that it's ahead of its time was that it had a whole commentary on the internet. It was talking about how people are getting wired in by the internet. Everyone's like they're not socializing in real life anymore. They're socializing on the internet, and they just go gonzo with the internet all the way, but like the things that it says individually about the internet is like interesting, but it is such a weird show that has dialogue and the dub is so fucking weird, but it's done in a way that sounds like so smart. Like I can't remember half the dialogue, but it's just I watch it's like it's that kind of era of anime where it's like none of the voice actors like knew what the fuck they were dubbing, and it's like what the fuck is this? But it's like
Oh,
whatever. But with this, it's like because the main character, is like this antisocial girl that doesn't really have a lot of friends. So she's like, "Hey, I like going on the internet," and it's like, like what the fuck? Like no one talks like that. It's like so like odd. But it gets away with it because it works for what the character is. She's this weird like experiment. By the end of the show, it's the kind of reveal that she's like some science experiment, pretty much. Like it goes so off the walls, and that's what I was thinking about in Killer 7 the whole time. It's like the story makes like there's something it says some things at the same time. There's stuff that makes no sense. The dialogue is goofy and weird, and the acting is weird, but it makes sense in what is going on. Like the similarities are almost one to one, except that they're not about the same subject matter. That's the only difference, is the subject matter of it. But
yeah.
it's just the weirdness of it
Yep.
is I love it.
You'll have to text me what that is. I want to take a look at it because maybe I'll like it too. Because there's something I don't know why I love Killer 7 so much because it's so stupid. But like I think the voice acting is really good. Like it's like a lot of people from like Metal Gear Solid. And like even like just the dumbest lines just sound good. I don't know why.
I love the
Those like two old men are like, they think we're useless because we're old. Fuck them. And I'm like, this is amazing, but this is so stupid.
like even on like the smaller scale of things, when you go through like the TV to pick a character, I love the dialogue that it changes each time. So like the first world is like,
Yeah.
"I've changed my perfume, man won't notice," or whatever, and then the second world is she just says, "What?" And it's like, oh, okay, like, and I just wonder if there's like a reason for that, but there probably is no reason why they changed. The other thing I and this dawned on me today when I was doing the uh the Almeida segment and all this stuff. The maid that saves the game and you see him with Harmon the whole time is the same character as the woman that's like having sex with him in the room or whatever. Like the girl that's like talking about
Yep.
going to school and all that. I didn't notice that for the longest time until I was like, oh, it's the same person. But there's probably a reason for that.
But that's why I think okay, I might be going into spoiler territory because I don't know. I don't remember if I'm remembering things or if I'm coming up with this now. Because like that girl, I think whatever's going on in that trailer home is all that's happening. Like I think Harmon is in a fucking comatose state. He's fucking a vegetable. And he's sitting there in a wheelchair, and that crazy ass girl is his caretaker. And Garcian goes and visits him and tells him stories about his assassin days. That's what I think is happening.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely, because like Harmon doesn't even talk when you see him in that room. He's just kind of there, just this, and
Until
then
you
like,
turn on the TV.
huh?
Until you turn on the TV and select it.
Yeah,
And then he's this like, he's like, the master has awakened. And he's like this official dude.
yeah, and I also wonder because when you go through that apartment, if you go past Harmon's room, there's like a vault door and another door, and every time you go there, you hear like a lot of screams and shit. And I just wonder if there's gonna be a reveal like you go through there and it's like I also wonder, like, it's either gonna be that or like Harmon's like a fucking serial killer. He's just killing people in that room the whole time. Like the whole time you think Harmon's like going out like killing like bad guys or whatever. But like when like Garcian's out, when the lady leaves, like he's just like doing shit in there. That's like he's not really a vegetable. Like he's just like pretending to be like, oh, I'm a fucking vegetable. And then once they leave, it's like, all right, fucking let's fuck these people up. Like I just wonder if there's gonna be like a reveal of that. So I do love that
Yeah, I don't
aspect of it,
remember. So I guess we'll see.
but the other thing is like the enemies. I'm loving the enemies each time, but I don't know if this will necessarily be a spoiler for you. It's not really a puzzle, but do you remember the giant smiles that you see in the game? Like, it's these giant enemies
Yeah,
that.
I've just encountered.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what you're supposed to do with them. Like, are you just because like at first I was like, okay, maybe you're supposed to dodge them, but there are just times where it's like you can't really dodge them because you're going on a guided path that they might just be happen to be right in front of. So like, can you kill them, or is it just like you see them, then you just like wait for them to fall, then run an opposite direction or whatever?
think I think you have to use mask to kill them.
Oh, okay.
I think the blow 'em up.
I
Yeah.
didn't think about using mask. I was using like Tevin and like Kaede. The other thing I loved about this game. What is going on? Why is iTunes opening? Sometimes like when I put these headphones on, my computer likes to open music randomly.
Hmm.
I
So
don't
you're
know
just listening to
why.
music right now?
No, but it was gonna play music probably. Yeah, it wouldn't go into the recording, but
Oh.
it's just it would just be like, why is this opening? I don't want it to open right now. But yeah, I like the every time that you go to a different area and you go to the TV, a lot of the characters are asleep. They have to wake up after like you have to like kill some enemies to wake them up. I like that a lot because it kind of it it's kind of weird. It kind of feels like the sensation of like if you're when your leg goes like when your leg falls asleep, you get that like static feeling in your leg or whatever. It kind of feels like that when the character is like
Mm.
asleep and you have to wake them up. So I do kind of like that aspect of it. I don't know if there's like a reason why that just happens or
I was gonna ask you if you knew that, because I was wondering if there's like a penalty or like a bonus you get for not waking people up, or if it's just like a thing. Because like when you wake them up, does it cost something? Does it cost blood vials?
I don't know if it caused blood vials because when I try to wake up one character, it kept saying kill one enemy or whatever or kill an enemy. So it kind of asks like for you to kill
Oh,
enemies for to wake them up. But I don't think there's a penalty. Though that does make me remember. I don't know if you get blood if the way I've been killing them just shooting them multiple times instead of their weakness. I don't know if you still get blood from doing that because that's been another thing I've been wondering. Is that like if you kill because if you kill the weak point, they all turn
think
red and they get blood. But if you kill them like normally, they have like confetti colors. And it's like I don't know if it's like if that counts or if it's like
I think you might get less. Um, but
uh
like you can also get blood if you like blow their limbs off too. Like if you
okay,
shoot off an arm or a leg, that gives you blood as well.
all right. The
The easiest thing to do is increase your critical stat,
yeah, I've been
and then you
doing
hit
that.
it even if you're not. What's that?
I've been doing the critical stat increase as well. Like I've been kind of going because like I have been kind of stacking up on a lot of blood. In some cases, like sometimes I upgrade in time, but there are times where I just go like a long stretch of game of not upgrading. So I just get all this blood built up. So I
Yeah.
just gotta put that all in like a character I'm using a lot. So now it's like they're all pretty well balanced at this point. But I'm still on disc 1 of the game, and I'm very curious to see when I'll reach to disc 2 because I was playing Metal Gear Solid 1, the Twin Snakes, last week, and that did a good gauge of like, okay, once you get to like disc 2 in that game, you're pretty much halfway through the game. And it's like, okay, like I know like I'm halfway through, I could beat this in another like 5 hours. While like with this, I don't know where it's gonna drop me to be like, oh, go to disc 2. And I'm curious to see if
Wait
there,
a sec.
huh?
Wait a sec. You think Metal Gear Solid 1, Twin Snakes, you think the second disc is halfway? It's gotta be
Yeah,
like
because you
three
and
quarters through the game, no?
well, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's ever in the PS1 version because this one it when you after you beat the first version of Sniper Wolf. Like the first time you fight her, and then you get captured. You leave the jail and you
That's
walk
where disc
back.
one ends.
Yeah, that's where disc one ends on the GameCube. PS1, I think, is probably after the second encounter with
Okay, wait.
Sniper Wolf.
So wait a second. Let me make sure I'm not insane. Because I thought disc one ends. Yeah. See, disc one ends in Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation after the second time we fight Sniper Wolf,
Ah, yeah. So GameCube is
which is
different.
way further.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Because I was like, what?
Yeah,
So
I was streaming it, and then someone in chat said, "Oh, this is where they do disc two swap, huh?" Like they were like confused too, but it's probably just because of the disc size that that GameCube uses. But so I'm just curious to see where it's gonna
yeah.
drop because like part of me is like how weird this game is. I feel like that they do something so fucking weird where disc two is something completely different. Like if you pop in disc two first, it's just gonna do something weird. But I doubt it. But I just wonder if that would be like if that was a thing. But I don't think so. But
I'm actually
maybe one day I'll try
I'm
it, see
actually
what
wondering if this
happens.
game is like a lot longer than I remember.
Well, the other thing to remember is the GameCube probably has like very the disc itself probably has very short storage on it, so it's probably easy to get the two discs from like
It
any.
has I think it has like 1.8 gigs. I'm actually really surprised this game is 2 discs long. Um, maybe they didn't compress things well.
Maybe because like Resident Evil 4 was also two discs, and I don't know how big that game
Hmm.
is. I would like to say
I'm
maybe it
looking
was
up the
like
storage size of a GameCube disc.
so like
Okay.
I did beat Persona 4, very exciting game, great game. But I'm gonna do
Ugh.
a separate video on that on its own. But it's funny to me. Like I beat that game and I moved on from it. I was like, okay, like whatever. I'll take a break before I go back to Golden. And I kind of want to go back to Golden just to experience the quality of life improvements that that game has because four was so torturous and every single time I talk to people about it, it's like the game is easy. What the fuck are you talking about? It's like no, this game is bullshit. It has a lot of bullshit RNG with the shuffle time. So I'm very curious to see the Golden, but I kind of want to play Persona 2 the most because I think Persona 2 would be way uh different because that game is so it's a different game compared to other Persona games because Persona 3 was what introduced the RPG aspect of it. So I'm just curious what Persona 2 would was before that.
I don't know how you're gonna sit through another playthrough of that fucking game. I fucking hate that game.
The
I couldn't even I don't know where I stopped, but I'm just like I have no interest in playing it anymore.
I I do feel like yeah, I was talking to another friend about Persona 4 because he played Golden and when he played that game before I even played 4. I played 5 and I was like, "Oh, 5 is great, whatever." He's like, "Oh yeah, 4 is great. Yeah, this and that." And I thought he got the true ending. So I talked to him about the true ending. He's like, "Oh, I didn't do the true ending. I just beat Adachi and that was it." I was like, "You didn't get the true ending." And and after that I was like, "So he didn't do the true final boss and all that kind of stuff." And that the way to get the true ending in that game is just dumb. But that final boss is it's so like not interesting. I like the design, but in Persona 3, it was way better in the sense that you go like the first phase of the fight, you're going through each arcana in the game. So like, oh, the boss starts off with like the Chariot Arcana, and then then the Judgment Arcana. Like he goes all the way through until the Death Arcana. Once he hits that Arcana, that's when the true fight begins, and it's like that's I like that way more because it kind of plays into the whole game and the whole experience and the whole confidants and all that, the S links or whatever, like all of that. And then forward's like, no, you just beat this one character and then it becomes another character, or like it just didn't feel that interesting on a gameplay level. But that was Persona 4. Like the whole game just kind of that baby boss made me want to drop the game. Like that almost killed the gameplay for me. Like I almost dropped the game after that. I was like,
And
this
yet you're gonna play the whole game again.
because I want to see like the thing I'm more interested about Golden is that that everyone I've talked to about the Marie, the new content, like the Marie dungeon that they throw in, is like I either hear people love it or they fucking despise it, and it's like I can't imagine that being worse than the fucking game itself. The only thing I heard was that it drains your SP each time you go through, and it's like there has to be more to it than just that. But like I wanted to experience it so I get because like it's the same shit with like with the answer where it's like everyone hated that and it's like I loved it. It's like I like the answer. Like it seemed way more like intense but more like interesting how hard it is. But I don't know. Like it's whatever. I kind of want to go
Why
through all
even bother
this
finding out?
because I want to have an
Why bother
opinion.
finding out?
So I don't have to hear people
You
tell
want to have an
me.
opinion?
Yeah, because if I want to say it sucks, I don't want to hear someone tell me, "Well, you didn't play it, so you don't know any better." It's like now I can tell them in their face, "I
Yeah, but
did
why
beat
not?
it."
Why just like take yourself out of the conversation and just be like, "Fuck it, I don't care about this game." That's what I'm gonna do.
It's more fun. It's more fun to play the game so they can be like, "Oh shit, he knows what he's talking about," even though they'll still
Yeah,
like
fuck it.
defend it all the same. Because I still remember that fucking argument.
Exactly. It's just a zero sum game.
The only thing I do like about Persona in general, I like the journey of playing the games. Like as much I don't like Persona 4 in the grand scheme of the experience and the other games I played, like 3 and 5 are way better, but the experience of playing 4 and streaming that is what I liked about it. And that's the only thing that's kind of make me want to go back to Gold is just streaming that game and just kind of doing that. That's like the only thing. If if I wasn't gonna stream Persona 4 Golden, I probably would never play it. Like I'd probably just be like, I don't need to play this game and just watch whatever I want on YouTube. But uh, it's just the streaming aspect is kind of what's making me want to go back to it. That's why like I've been playing like SMT3 only on stream because that's been more fun to stream as well.
Does the dumbass father guy figure out who hit and run his wife?
No, he never finds out because like I think I don't think he ever found out. I think it's either that they either don't find out or that the guy died in the car accident. Maybe I don't know. Like
Yeah, whatever.
it doesn't really resolve itself at all. Even that wrestling story didn't
I was just
resolve.
wondering because it's such a big part of the whole thing.
It it kind of isn't. It's more. The only thing that serves to as a role for is just to get the father to be more close to the daughter because he kind of isolated himself from his daughter, and then it's like the whole thing is like it's for him to like move on to let go of finding who did it and just getting and just moving on and just being happy with his daughter, which is kind of like a
Well,
cop out,
does
but
he at least like he does move on?
yeah, like if you
Is he like, fucking, I'm not gonna look anymore?
yeah, he's more of just like, look, I know like the guy who killed, like I'll never find out who that is, but it's more important for me to spend my time with Nanako than it is to spend my time in the police precinct trying to find this guy. Like because he understands that he's losing all these years of her childhood doing this. That sure it might bring closure to the case, but
Right.
at the same time, like it's gonna be at the expense of his daughter. So that was fine. I think the only story that's kind of dumb is just Persona 4 story is just dumb in the sense that like by the time they explain how the TV world works, I think at that point you start to it just feels like that you could sit there and probably poke holes in some of the explanations of that what they give you because I don't remember or know if they explain what happens of like what people saw on the Midnight Channel. Like they talk about how the Midnight Channel is more of a reflection of what's inside people and what they want to see. But it's like okay, so if they all see everyone saw the Yukiko thing on the Midnight Channel, like does that explain like what happens to them after the fact? Like, do they not see? Do they see just blurs and only some people see it? Like, it just I don't quite get that kind of aspect of it. They explain like why some people could go inside the TV and some don't, which is like fine. It's a whatever explanation. The only thing I will give them credit is that one of the plot reveals was actually hidden better than Adachi. Like Adachi is like pretty easy to pick out, but one of the true bad guy was the gas attendant that you wouldn't think of at all because he shows up like for like 1 second in the game, but like it plays into like what he says in the cutscene. So it's like okay, well at least this is like it kind of serves. It's just I don't quite get the point of like Persona 3 was about like accepting death and accepting like death is inevitable and overcoming that and just living your life and just being okay with that. 5 is about overcoming the system and a rigged establishment, fuck society, beat that shit, whatever. Like that makes sense. But 4, it's just the truth, and it's like what is there more than that? Like the thing that it surrounds itself on is finding the true killer, which is the most basic form of truth that anyone would find. It's not like they want to play as like it's some sinister truth that like oh because it talks about like how people are more happy with convenient lies than truths, and it's like okay, but the thing that you're framing this around is not even interesting. It's like this guy killed someone and you have to find out who truly did it. It's like this doesn't really defend the point of like a convenient lie. Like it doesn't serve the plot where it's like it does you don't feel conflicted with what the game tells you. While 3, it's like you feel conflicted because you don't want death to happen, but at the same time you have to accept it. And it's like, oh shit, like this is something that's playing into the story. In 5, it's like you have to choose between an easy life that's predetermined or going outside of that predetermined safe life to be your own man or whatever. It's like, oh, that's a little bit more interesting. That kind of goes into the
Well,
story, while 4 is just kind of meanders. But that's it.
Persona sucks. So who gives a fuck? Um, back to Killer 7.
Yeah,
Because what they should have done, in see, this should do in Persona is delete all the exposition and just explain nothing. Like Suda 51, their game would have been better, and it would have been taken 5 hours to beat because it's
yeah.
fucking 97% story, and it makes me sick. So anyway, what do you think is coming next? Like, so what happens? I don't care if you tell me about the story of what happens after Almeida, but like, don't tell me how to beat the boss.
Oh, okay.
But like,
Well,
what's coming next?
so I I well, okay. So this guy came into a building and started shooting everyone up. Like he just shot like all these like secretaries in the face and all this stuff. It's like okay, like th- to show that this is the guy that we're gonna kill, like, some assassin that we're killing. And then I just stopped playing right at the amusement park. Like I just made to an amusement park, uh, in it, which I like. It made me think of Cowboy Bebop, of that episode where Spike goes to a carnival
Hmm.
fighting that guy that's like that becomes a blimp or whatever. Like, have you seen Cowboy Bebop or no?
I've seen like half of it.
Ah,
Um,
okay. So you probably wouldn't know
I don't know
then.
if I've seen the episode you're talking about.
Yeah, because I think this is probably like the later half of the show. But there's an episode where he goes to like a carnival because there's this
Uh,
guy that was like a convict that they use as a test subject, and they made him like the most perfect assassin imaginable. Like he can't be killed by any conventional means, but he has this irrational fear of cats or whatever the fuck. So Spike goes to a carnival and he sees that thing there. So that's what I was thinking of the whole time because like the skyline of it is nothing but carnival shit. Like you see like lights, you see like a Ferris wheel. It's like, oh okay, like this is I like the atmosphere of it because it's very creepy. This game feels like a horror game at times. And it's like at first I was like, okay, this
yeah,
is just an action game. But then it's like there's stuff that is just that has like themes of horror sprinkled in. I also love the disembodied head that you find
it's
each time that you find
for
her.
real.
The
Oh, oh yeah, the weird, yeah. And I think all those ghosts and they all but say it in the game is like all those people are people he killed. That like the ghosts you see, because even after you kill that chef guy, you talk to him right after.
yeah.
Um,
And they're also like translucent as well, so like you can see through them. The other one this one was a little bit more on the nose. This one I think is kind of where, like, if you didn't pick up on it by just looking at the characters, the game just outright tells you, because it tells you, and during the Almeida segment, oh, Travis, yeah, he was a guy that you killed or whatever. Like, he mentions that Travis died, and that's the guy you keep running into. So it's like, okay, so that's like one of the things.
Yeah,
The guy in the S&M suit, I like that each segment also he changes what he says. Like in the beginning, it was like we're in a tight spot, we're in the tightest spot. Then the other one was like
yeah,
uh very harsh or whatever. Like I do like that each time that guy changes his
yeah.
lingo. But that guy goes with everyone. Travis is the only one that kind of stays consistent with how he talks. But it's Travis. He gives like he says whatever.
Travis is a funny weirdo with, and he always has something different written on his shirt
Yeah,
that's like thematically linked to what he's saying.
yeah. I like the I part of me wonders if the name of Travis it went into No More Heroes Travis. Like if they because I wonder if like if they're gonna elaborate more on because like the thing that was making me think of that was the taste in shirts both Travis wears and Travis and No More Heroes wears are almost the same. There are these weird like shirts that you could just get weird icons that are just like very stark designs that could just even be words. Now it's a little bit more different because now they're just game covers of indie games now, but you can get all these weird shirts and it kind of feels the same way with this Travis in Killer 7 where he wears these weird shirts that kind of make no sense. Like no one would wear the shirts he's wearing except for him. Maybe a few other people, but
Maybe it's just based off the same like archetype or something though. Maybe he has like a friend named Travis that like has those similarities that he uses to model some of his characters after though.
yeah. I think it's that, and there. I think there's. I feel like even in all of his games, I think there is just a thread that kind of ties them together, not story wise, but maybe just thematically, like how each game is made. Because I think like just how weird each one is before and like before after the next game is always gonna stand on its own. Uh, and I think that, and I think like the other thing that was interesting with Killer 7 within its development was that uh Suda went into a complete media blackout. Like he did not watch any shows or anything. Like he didn't want to be tainted by other like media to get any inspiration. So this was like him pretty much isolated from any form of media imaginable. And then he made this game. So I think that also kind of shows in how the game is and how weird it is because like if you watch any other like game or anything like there is some inspiration from from other forms. Like some movies might take inspiration from another movie. They might have an homage from another movie. But while Killer 7 it's like he went out of his way to not watch anything and just not get any other inspiration from anything. So he just went in like cold completely. And he blacked himself out from everything. So I do think that it's kind of him trying to like form a narrative and a story in a way that is completely unique that's not tainted by traditional framing ways. Like the way that the story is framed is not traditional or normal because he hasn't watched anything to get like all right. So in the beginning we need to have like an introductory part. We need to build the world. We need all this stuff. Since he like isolated himself from everything, it's like fuck it, we'll just have like this scene where like a car drives up, this guy's walking, and he's just gonna kill someone immediately. Like it just kind of moves on from that. So I do think that it shows that a lot.
Don't give him too much credit yet.
Well, that he
Don't
said
give him
that
too much credit yet until you see the rest of the game.
he said
Because
that
I'm
in an
pretty sure none of it
interview.
makes
Well, it doesn't have to make sense. It's just in general, like the fact that it doesn't make sense
sense.
and all this stuff.
No sense.
It may sure it makes it's whatever, but like he still did not watch any like form of stories or movies or TV shows or anything. Like he had nothing to like taint his what he wanted to do in this game, which it making no sense is what made him do this because I've done this myself as well. Like when I was like making like all these comics that I've not even uploaded, I sat there like, oh, this is like that show I would just watch is like a better story. Oh, then I'll just like not like what I made and just restart. So him just like just isolating himself, I feel it's more about him feeling confident in putting nonsense in it in the first place. The fact that he just commits to all this nonsense in it and didn't have any remorse of like, does this? And he never had to think to himself, does this make sense? It's like I think it all like ties in into that.
Fair, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's where I'm coming from with
But
that.
like, that's fair. But like, I don't know, man. I want to see if like, cause like, there's a difference between like just making a bunch of nonsense and like making a bunch of nonsense that works cohesively together. I'm not saying
Yeah.
I still like it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, Suda, what the fuck is this shit? Um, but like, the other thing I was gonna say is like, um, I forgot what I was gonna say. Um, whatever. From like the story perspective, though, it's like there's like these weird anime cutscenes that seem like things that are tangibly happening, and then all the stuff that happens in game is just nonsense.
Yeah. That's what I felt a lot during the Almeida stuff because when you go to these like the drugstore, the post office, like those were specifically animated. Same with like when you meet Almeida, like those were done for a specific reason. And then like when you see like the actual like in-game cutscenes, it's like not the same. And it's also interesting. Like you think like the scenes that were animated would be the most bombastic and like silly, like whatever, because it's animated. But it's like the most tame, mundane
They're
stuff like you've
completely
seen.
deadpan.
Yeah. And then like the stuff that's in game is like
Yeah,
fucking off the walls, and it's like, oh, okay, like so I do agree with that as well. Uh, I don't know if I talked to you about this, but during the Japanese house mission, whatever, when you're kind of forced to play as the masked smith, I kind of feel like it was a kind of a joke that they gave that guy such a cool design and such a big physique, and they gave him such a weak little voice. Like I gotta kill you.
he
Uh,
sounds like a 14-year-old.
yeah, and it's like it works so well because and I remember I was in a class I was teaching comic design, whatever the fuck, and I had this one design of this guy that was like this big burly guy. I was like, I'll just have him not talk at all. And one person suggested me like, oh, you should have him have like a notebook and he writes like words on it, and that's what he had. That's how he talks, and that but this is like in 2012, and I just felt that was like a most passe kind of thing. It's like I feel this has been done before, like having a big burly guy or whatever, and then just having you have this like nothing. And I think with like Mask the Smith is like in that era where it's like it was new and fresh and cool, but it's like at that point it was kind of out the door. It's like okay, no enough of these like silly characters that everyone has done. Like, but I liked it in this.
That's another thing that I think.
Huh?
That's another thing, though. I think that is some other weird symbolism because I think he's a kid. I think it's another thing of the delusion of the mind is that he's not really in that body. He's actually a kid
Yeah.
because he goes, "Children are pure and they know who the strongest is," or whatever the fuck he says.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he's not that grown man that he is. He was a kid. But this is kind of a spoiler, but there's a mission in the game that explains how everyone ended up with Harmon. Like everyone has
Ah.
their own story.
Okay.
So I like I don't know if what I'm saying about Mask is what actually happens. I'm just thinking like that's not
Well,
nothing is what it seems in this
it's
game.
kind of funny because I don't know where I heard it because I think I might have heard that somewhere else as well about Mask the Smith. But I think the other thing that's interesting about that about him like talking about how kids are pure and all that, it made me think like I don't remember where I heard it from as well. But there is like this commentary on kids because kids since they when they're into the world they don't know right from wrong off the bat, like they have to be taught this. So like they could be the most cruel and vicious kind of like person because they don't know any better. Like that's why you have some kids that are just like kind of abusing cats and or ants or whatever the fuck. Like these kids like they don't have any filter until like a parent teaches them that's fucked up. Don't do that, and they're like, okay, I understand. This is fucked up. Then they grow from that. So I was also wondering if that line that Mask the Smith says is more of like a commentary on how kids can like they're pure in the sense of they don't have anyone tainting what they think. Like they could just act and think whatever they want to think about how they act until later on an adult comes by and tells them how to think, and then that purity kind of wavers more and more each time they listen to an adult. But that could be a little too literal and a little bit more like spinning that line further. But it could be that too. But it's interesting in all these other like layers to it because
Yeah,
I think like as nonsense as it is, it does lead to a lot of thought, intentional or not. Which I think is interesting because a lot of
that's
Western.
the
Hmm?
I was gonna say the best part about this game is gonna be at the end when we can read people's analysis of it and what kind of wacky shit they come up with because it's like it's so nonsensical and surreal. There's so many interpretations you can take from it. Um, so it'll be interesting to see just everything that happens in the game. And it's like I'm literally 15 years older than when I first played it. So it's like I'm now gonna see things that I didn't see back then.
Yeah,
And it'll be really interesting to just see what I interpret out of it this time. And going back, one more thing I want to say about Master Smith, and I want to know what happened to you when you fought that boss where you had to shoot that woman,
oh,
right?
I
Where it's
s-
just she's shooting you and you can't die. Did you lose the first time?
yeah, I swapped characters,
What
but they kept
happens again?
dying.
Because
So what happens if when you lose, like
wait, what?
so okay, so when I was doing this boss fight was pissing me off because I didn't understand how it was fair because she was shooting like 1 million bullets and all Master Smith can do is just one shot. So it's like how do you win? How do you win just off the bat? So like what happens is that uh I don't know if that happens even if you win. Like the stone statue like kind of goes into your face, but then it pans out and it counts how many bullets. And when it says that you lose, it's like it's literally just they play the death animation of the character. Like it says you lose, and it says that she wins,
Right.
and then it just says then it plays the death animation, and then you pick up the head and all of that. So what I ended up doing was right before I entered the room, I swapped characters to I can't remember if it was Kaede or if it was Kevin. I think it was Kaede. I used her, and then I just kind of shot her. I was like, yeah, fuck it, bang, 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 and then I won. And I was like, how did anyone beat that boss with Master Smith is beyond me. I don't know how that's possible because you can't move. You can only shoot.
Well, that's the thing. It's not possible. It's the weirdest thing. It's like the puzzle that you're presented with in the game is that you cannot win. Like they change you into him on purpose before fighting for some. It's like a weird thing, and I just distinctly remembered it. Like when that started, I was like, "Oh yeah." So I just picked Khan and I just went. But like, it's because I remember that. But it's like it's such a weird thing to do to be like, let me swap you to the wrong character
the
so
other
you cannot win this thing.
the other thing
You know what I
that's
mean? Like it's
yeah
such a
it
strange.
I love this game is weird and it's like it kind of goes into like why this game just doesn't give you a tutorial because I didn't know for the longest time you could heal in the game. I thought either by the save point you heal or whatever, but you heal by using blood vials and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I didn't figure that out at all. So I was like so I was going through the whole like all these areas with like not full health and I was like, "Oh, okay. Oh, use blood vials to heal. That makes more sense." Uh so I do like that this game does not give you any tutorial at all. So you could even the game kind of tricks you. It could trick you into doing a challenge run of that game without you even wanting to do a challenge run. Uh, if you're not like careful, but I do.
Because you don't know about these things.
Yeah, like I don't know. I remember hearing that the Steam version also made healing convenient as well, and I don't know how they did it on the Steam version because you had to go to the pause menu otherwise. But I do like I just love that map. It saves so much time and so much like planning because it helps understand Kaede's ability because you wouldn't otherwise know the signs of what she can do unless you look for blood or if there's something very minor that you may not even see. But I do like that. I'm surprised there's no enemies that capitalize on character specific traits, except for the giant smiles is the only one I've seen that capitalizes on only Mask the Smith. While other enemies, you can kill them with anyone. The one enemy I don't like is the one that has the weakness on the back, and you have to shoot them to spin around. Those enemies are so fucking annoying. They kept coming close to me, and I couldn't get them to spin around in time.
Oh, with the wings.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are your thoughts so far in the game? Let's close it out.
Yeah, I think it's time for closing thoughts. I think I'm loving this game. I've been playing this game like I felt this way with Bloodstained, uh, Ghost Runner, and this game, where I'm just dedicated to playing it every day now. Like I play like an hour or two a day just to play because I've just been I wake up I'm like oh man I really want to play Killer 7 right now. I just want to get as far as I can until like I'm done playing, and I've just been like dying to play more. While like I love Stealth Bastard, but that game is more of just like I wanted to play just because like I like the puzzle aspect of it, but that was just pretty much the only hook. While like
Yeah.
this, Ghost Runner and Bloodstained had something that was pulling me in every time. Like I love the mystery of all of the story stuff, the gameplay, the style, like the visuals of this game. I love how harsh the shadows are. It's so like it looks it looks borderline bad, but at the same time, it looks very good. At the same time, like it's kind of like it pulls off a style that hides the shortcomings of the development, and I think it would look better on Steam too. Like I'm sure the remaster makes it look even more clean with the lines.
Oh, it looks amazing. It looks amazing, but like not like in comparison to like a modern day game, just in comparison to what it looks like on the GameCube. It looks unbelievable. Frame rate's so high, like everything is smooth. And it really does look like a grindhouse film. Like I think the whole thing is basically just a grindhouse vignette film. Um
Yeah, I don't know. I feel more like it's more like a David Lynch kind of piece. Like I don't know what you'd consider David Lynch, like what genre he's in, but it's more Lynchian. It's Lynchian.
I would say, but I would say I agree with that. But I would also say like a lot of the scenes are like Tarantino-ish without the as much buildup. Like it's like a bunch of people talking and then everyone's dead all of a sudden.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and it does use blood in a very stylistic way as well because like Tarantino has like these like
Yeah,
big gushing blood that goes crazy, and then in Killer 7 it's like you shoot a limb off and it's like it's like oh shit like it's like streamers
yeah.
coming out, which I kind of wish there were more games that were like this, and like it goes into how I said even in the last episode where the gunplay is so satisfying. It's so simple, but just shooting the weak point, just shooting the limbs, it's so satisfying where it's like you don't need to kill enemies, but you just kill them because it's fun. Like in the Almeida segment, you can jump up on houses. There's a room full of these golden shirt shadows, and at first like okay, here's one, here's two. There's one room where it was like 10 of them all like shoulder to shoulder like running at you, and it's like oh shit. And I think I was Coyote for this, so it was just like it just felt like I was like Revolver Ocelot just shooting each one individually, and it felt so like satisfying just shooting all of them, and it's like this is like so dumb but it's great.
Yeah. That game rules. I'm gonna play right after we get off this, so let's close
All
up.
right, that is it for this episode. See you next week, be it either whenever we record this, upload this. Oh, last thing, I did get the physical version of Suda 51's visual novel, The Silver Case. So this is gonna be
Huh.
another fun thing to decipher. But this is purely reading, so I mean it's not really much of a game more than a book. But they put on the right console. I mean the Switch is portable, so it could be like a book. So they picked the right one for this one. So that is it. See ya in the next
Cool.
one. Bye bye.